The lights were too bright, too white, reflecting off the crystal chandeliers like 100 accusing eyes. Every camera turned toward us. My arm was looped through his, our bodies too close, the warmth of him soaking into me like an unwanted memory. His voice carried over the crowd, calm, deep, steady, announcing in front of the entire charity gala that our bond was forever. The applause came first, sharp, hollow, polite, like a storm of glass shattering in my head. My smile didn't reach my eyes, couldn't. It felt carved into my face, tight and painful. I could still hear it, the words he had whispered just last week to someone else. Words not meant for me. Mating him was a mistake. The memory clung to me like smoke, bitter and suffocating. My scent had soured that night, a quiet storm hidden under layers of cologne. I hadn't confronted him, I'd just stayed quiet. And now here we were. His fingers tightened just slightly around my waist, guiding me toward the flash of cameras. "Don't move," he murmured under his breath, the low rumble of his voice pressing against my ear. I wanted to turn my head, to ask him why. Why claim me now here, in front of them all? My chest felt heavy, anger curling in my ribs, but underneath it was something far more dangerous. My body remembered the heat of his breath that night, the sharp, almost bruising grip. The moment his mark had sunk into my gland, burning, binding, sealing, I told myself it was an accident, a slip in the haze of a forced situation, that it meant nothing. But now, maybe I was wrong. The speeches began, the music swelled. We played the part. He poured wine into my glass, leaning close enough that his scent brushed over my skin. Sharp cedar, smoke, the kind of scent that clung for days. My pulse betrayed me, beating too fast. I hated myself for noticing. People came and went, offering congratulations, polite jokes about how sudden it all was. I nodded when I was supposed to, laughed in the right places, my face numb. He didn't leave my side, his hand a constant weight on me, a leash no one else could see. When the gala ended, the night air hit me like cold water. My heels clicked against the marble steps as we walked to the car, the silence between us loud enough to crush me. I could feel the tension in him, the way his shoulders were set, the way his grip on my wrist tightened just before the driver opened the door. Inside, the leather seat smelled faintly of him. Too faint, too tempting. I stared out the window, the city lights blurring into streaks. My reflection in the glass didn't look like me anymore. My eyes were darker, my mouth set in a line that felt unfamiliar. Finally I spoke, my voice low. "Why?" His gaze didn't waver. "It was necessary." "Necessary," I repeated, tasting the bitterness of the word. "For both of us," he said simply, as if that explained everything. But the only thing I could think was for him, maybe, not for me. We drove the rest of the way in silence. When the car stopped in front of his building, the air seemed thinner, my chest tight. He stepped out first, holding the door for me like we were still on display. I didn't move right away. I just sat there, my hands gripping my clutch until my knuckles ached. Finally, I stepped out, the city's night air wrapping around me, carrying the faint trace of rain. Inside the lobby, I kept my eyes on the floor, my heels clicking softly against the marble. The elevator doors slid shut, and for a moment we were alone. No cameras, no applause, no audience. His scent filled the small space, pressing against me from all sides. I tried to stand still, to keep my breathing even, but the bond pulsed faintly under my skin, like it knew something I didn't. I remembered the exact moment it had formed, the burn, the way my vision had blurred, the way his voice had sounded rough, almost desperate. I had told myself it didn't mean anything. Maybe I had lied to myself. The elevator chimed. We stepped out. His apartment was warm, dimly lit, the scent of cedarwood stronger here. I didn't take off my coat. He poured himself a drink, leaning against the counter, his eyes never leaving me. "You're angry." I laughed without humor. "You think?" His jaw tightened. "You'll understand, eventually." I shook my head, moving toward the guest room. "I don't want to understand. I just want to know why you—" He cut me off, stepping forward, his hand closing around my wrist. The heat of his touch sent a shiver through me. "Not tonight," he said, his voice quieter now. "Not when you're still looking at me like I'm the enemy." "Then stop acting like one," I whispered. For a long moment, he just looked at me. The weight of his gaze was almost too much to bear. Then he let go, stepping back, giving me space I didn't know I needed until I could breathe again. I closed the door to the guest room behind me, leaning against it, my heart beat loud in my ears. The city's lights filtered through the curtains, casting faint patterns across the floor. I sat on the bed, pressing my fingers to my gland, feeling the faint pulse there, the reminder that no matter what I wanted, we were bound. I lay down, staring at the ceiling, the echoes of the gala still buzzing in my head, the applause, the cameras, his voice saying forever like it was a promise or a warning. I didn't know which one scared me more. And somewhere deep in my chest, under the anger and confusion, was the smallest, most dangerous thought of all. What if I didn't want to break it? The office door clicked shut behind me, sealing in the scent of polished wood, ink, and him. His scent was stronger here, untouched by the world outside, cedar and faint smoke, threaded with something darker that only I could name because it clung to my skin now. He didn't ask me to sit. He didn't need to. I stood in the center of his space, surrounded by walls of glass and shelves stacked with files, while he leaned back against his desk like he owned not just the room but me. "You can't break this bond," he said, voice calm, almost bored, like we were discussing a quarterly report instead of my life. "It's useful." The words slid into me like ice. "Useful," I repeated, my voice tasting bitter in my own mouth. His gaze didn't waver. My family needed an Omega spouse. The council needed proof of stability. This, his fingers gestured lazily between us, solves everything. My fingers curled into my palms until my nails bit into skin. I wanted to laugh or scream or both. "You mean it solves everything for you?" His lips twitched. Not a smile? Not exactly. For us. I looked away, because I knew if I met his eyes I'd see that same unshakable certainty that always made my stomach twist. My heat had been exploited that night, suppressant laced with something sharp, something that broke through my control. I had thought I was safe. I had trusted the dull chemical numbness that kept my scent locked down. I hadn't known he was the one who arranged for it to fail. The memory hit like a pulse, heat blooming too fast, my body burning while my mind stumbled to keep up, his shadow filling the doorway, his scent cutting through the haze like a hook. I had thought it was an accident. I had been wrong. "You planned it," I whispered. "I planned to protect what was mine," he corrected, the words heavy enough to fill the space between us. "I wasn't yours," I shot back. "You are now." The bond thrummed under my skin, low and insistent, as if it agreed with him. I hated that. I hated that I could feel the faint echo of his heartbeat through it, steady and calm while mine raced. "We'll play the perfect couple," he said, pushing off the desk and walking toward me. His steps were slow, deliberate, until I say otherwise. I stepped back without thinking, my spine meeting the cool glass wall. The city stretched out behind me in lights and movement, but it felt far away, muted. His hand came up, palm flat against the glass near my head, trapping me without touching. "You'll smile when we're in public. You'll stay at my side. You'll answer to my name." "And if I don't?" I asked, the challenge slipping out before I could stop it. His eyes softened in a way that didn't comfort me. "The bond won't let you go far. You already know that." It was true. Every time I had tried to pull away, even in thought, the bond tightened in my chest like a leash, each breath feeling less like mine and more like his property. "I didn't agree to this," I said. "You didn't refuse it either." The worst part was, he was right. That night, in the haze of heat and instinct, I hadn't pushed him away. I hadn't wanted to, and he knew it. He reached out then, his fingers brushing the collar of my shirt, a slow, casual adjustment that was anything but casual. His thumb grazed the edge of my gland, not touching the mark but close enough that my pulse jumped. "You'll learn," he murmured, his voice dipping low, "that resistance only makes the bond tighter." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." I hated how my body reacted to him, the way my skin heated where his scent touched it, the way my breathing fell into rhythm with his without me noticing. The clock on the wall ticked, loud in the silence. He finally stepped back, giving me space, but the air between us stayed heavy, charged. "I'll have the contracts sent to your email," he said, as if we were still in a business meeting. "Our schedules will be coordinated. Public appearances begin tomorrow night." I turned toward the door, my hand on the handle, but I couldn't stop myself from asking, why me? For the first time, he hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. His gaze met mine, unreadable. "Because you fit." The words shouldn't have made my chest tighten the way they did. I left before I could ask what he meant. In the hallway, the air was cooler, but my skin still buzzed. Every step away from his office felt like wading through something thick, the bond pulling, testing, reminding me it was still there. When I reached the elevator, I let my forehead rest against the wall, eyes closed. My scent was faint but laced with his. The two tangled together in a way that no amount of scrubbing could separate. I thought of the word he'd used, useful. I thought of his eyes when he'd said "you are now." And I hated that, somewhere deep under the anger and the betrayal. Part of me wasn't sure if I wanted to fight him or if I wanted to see how far he'd go to keep me. The studio was too warm. Not the gentle warmth of sunlight, but the heavy, enclosed kind that made my skin prickle and my shirt cling in ways I hated. Lights hung low, buzzing faintly, casting a golden glow over the set. The photographer's voice was cheerful, telling us to look natural, as if that was something I knew how to do with him standing this close. The backdrop was soft white, draped like wedding silk. I sat on the edge of a cushioned bench, my hands resting awkwardly in my lap, until he came to stand beside me. He didn't just stand, he filled the space, his shadow folding over me. The makeup artist fussed with my collar, smoothing it down, and then the photographer called for hands intertwined. His fingers slid over mine like it was nothing, like he hadn't already stolen enough. His palm was warm, his grip steady. My own hand betrayed me, tightening back before I could stop it. It was just for the photo, that's what I told myself. But the heat in the studio wasn't just from the lights anymore. My scent rose without warning, uncoiling slow at first, then sharper, richer like it had been waiting for him to be this close. I froze, but it was already too late. His pupils dilated, black eating the gold of his eyes. His grip on my wrist tightened, not painfully, but with a pressure that left no space for escape. "You smell like you're mine," he murmured, low enough that only I could hear it. My pulse jumped. I started, but the words died when he leaned in. I could feel his breath, warm against my neck, grazing the edge of my gland. My whole body went still. This was supposed to be fake, pretend, a scene for the camera. Then his mouth brushed my gland. Not hard, not deep, just enough for my vision to blur for a heartbeat. My breath caught, my fingers curling into his sleeve. The photographer laughed lightly. "Perfect. Just like that. Hold it." But I knew it wasn't perfect. It wasn't part of the script. His lips lingered half a second too long. The faint scrape of teeth grazed skin, sending a spark down my spine. Then came the bite. Not a full mark, but enough to burn, a sharp claiming pressure that made my knees weaken. My scent tangled with his instantly, heavy and intoxicating, wrapping around us like invisible chains. I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe right. My free hand clutched the fabric at his chest, feeling the steady thud of his heartbeat through the layers. We broke apart when the photographer's voice rose again, cheerfully asking for one more, closer. He stepped back slowly, like peeling himself away from something magnetic. His eyes didn't leave mine. The makeup artist came to fix my collar again, chatting about lighting, unaware of the way my skin still throbbed where his mouth had been. I avoided looking at him, but his scent was everywhere, inside my lungs, under my skin, in the space between heartbeats. We sat side by side for the next set, our knees brushing. Every casual touch for the camera was a quiet war. His thumb traced the side of my hand like a secret, hidden from the lens. I didn't pull away. The photographer called for a break. I escaped to the dressing room, shutting the door behind me. My reflection in the mirror was worse than I expected. Eyes too bright, cheeks flushed, lips parted like I'd been running. I pressed my fingers to my gland. The skin was warm, tender, not broken but marked enough for me to feel him there still. A knock came. "We need you back in 5, a staff voice called. Before I could answer, the door opened. It wasn't staff. He stepped inside, shutting it behind him. The room seemed to shrink, the air thickening instantly with his scent, stronger now, layered with something sharper, almost like the edge of rut. I took a step back. "You can't just—" His hand came up, fingers brushing my jaw. "That wasn't fake," he said quietly. I hated the way my breath caught. It was supposed to be. It wasn't. His gaze dropped to my neck, lingering on the spot he'd bitten. "You smelled like mine." I couldn't stop. "You didn't try." I shot back, my voice thin. He stepped closer, the space between us dissolving. "And you didn't push me away." I wanted to deny it, But my body remembered the way my knees had softened, the way my fingers had gripped him without thought. The bond pulsed faintly as if agreeing with him. "You're making this harder," I whispered. His smile was faint, almost sad. "It's supposed to be hard." The door opened suddenly, a staff member calling for us. We stepped apart, but the air between us stayed charged, our scents still tangled. Back on set, the photographer wanted us standing this time. His arm slipped around my waist like it belonged there. My body leaned into the hold before I realized it. The camera clicked, capturing moments that would be printed, posted, passed around. Everyone would see the perfect couple. No one would know that the perfect couple's pulse was running wild. By the last shot, my legs felt unsteady. When they finally called wrap, I turned to leave, but his hand caught mine, stopping me. He didn't say anything, just held my gaze, his thumb brushing my skin once before letting go. I walked out into the cold air, gulping it like I'd been drowning. But even outside, away from the lights, the burn of his bite stayed. His scent clung like it had no intention of leaving. And deep down, I knew this wasn't pretend anymore. By morning, the whole city had seen it. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, notifications piling one over another until the screen froze. I didn't need to open them to know what they were. Every headline screamed the same thing. My flushed face, his lips grazing my gland, captured in high definition and framed as passionate love. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tight around my phone, watching my name get dragged in comments that blurred together. Desperate Omega. Gold digger council's pet. Some messages were worse. Personal, cruel, talking about my body like it belonged to them. It wasn't just strangers. His family called. I heard their voices through the closed office door, sharp, cold, angry. Words like reckless and embarrassment carried through the walls. I stayed in the guest room all day, curtains drawn, scent masked under a thick spray of neutralizer. It didn't matter. His scent still lingered, faint in the sheets, a reminder I couldn't scrub away. By nightfall, the air in the apartment changed. It was subtle at first, a heaviness pressing against my skin, a thrum in the bond I couldn't ignore. Then the sound came, doors slamming, heavy steps down the hall. The scent hit me like a wave before I saw him. Sharp cedar turned raw and molten, threaded with the undeniable burn of rut. It filled every corner, pushed into my lungs, made my pulse race against my will. I locked the guest room door, pressed my back to it. The handle rattled once. Then again, the third time the lock gave way with a sharp click. He stood there in the doorway, eyes blown wide, pupils swallowing the gold, chest rising and falling in harsh breaths. His hair was slightly messy, his shirt half unbuttoned, the line of his throat exposed. I took a step back until my shoulders met the wall. "Don't," I said, though my voice wasn't steady. His gaze locked on me like prey. "I can't stay away." His voice was lower, rougher, like gravel dragged across stone. In 2 steps he was in front of me, one hand braced beside my head, the other catching my wrist before I could push him away. His scent was everywhere now, hot, suffocating, seeping into my skin. "I mean it," I whispered, turning my head, but his breath still brushed my cheek. "You smell too much like mine to pretend," he murmured, and the words sent something dangerous through me. His mouth found mine before I could answer, heat and pressure stealing the air from my lungs. I wanted to fight it. I did, but the bond pulled tight, urging me closer when my mind screamed to run. Every kiss felt like theft, like he was taking pieces of me I didn't remember giving. My hands were on his chest, not pushing hard enough, not pulling either. His rut-driven strength was relentless, pressing me harder against the wall. His mouth left mine only to trail down my jaw, to my neck, to the edge of my gland. I froze, nails digging into his shirt. "Don't," I said again, quieter. He didn't bite, but his lips stayed there, breathing me in like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "You don't know what you do to me," he said, and there was almost a plea in it. But the plea wasn't enough to make me believe. When it was over, my legs wouldn't hold me. I slid down the wall, breath shaking, his scent still thick on my skin, my clothes inside my head. He crouched in front of me, his eyes no longer burning but still watching. I couldn't look at him. My hands gripped my knees, knuckles white. "I didn't mean," he started. "Don't," I cut in, my voice breaking. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. When he left, I stayed there, staring at the floor. The room was spinning, but not from the heat. My scent, soft, usually faint, was gone, drowned completely in his. I tried to find it to breathe myself in, but all I got was him. I crawled to the bed and sat there for hours, knees pulled tight to my chest, trying to remember what I smelled like before him. I couldn't. The station was still half asleep when I arrived. Cold air clung to the metal beams above, drifting down in faint breaths of frost. My fingers were stiff around the train ticket, the paper soft from being folded too many times in my pocket. The ache in my chest hadn't stopped since I left his apartment. Not the normal ache of distance, but the sharp, twisting pull of the bond trying to drag me back. I kept my head down, scarf pulled high over my mouth, avoiding the few eyes that glanced my way. My bag was light, just enough clothes to last until I found somewhere else. Somewhere he couldn't follow. The announcements echoed overhead, soft and indifferent. I told myself again like a prayer, I will be free. Then I heard it. My name? The sound cut through the platform noise like a hook sinking into my spine. My head turned before I could stop it. He was there, coat unbuttoned, hair damp from the morning frost, breath rising in pale clouds. His eyes locked on me, unblinking. Each step he took toward me was steady, heavy, certain, like he already knew I wouldn't run far. I took a step back, the edge of the platform too close behind me. My pulse tripped over itself. You think you can run from this? His voice wasn't loud, but it carried, each word sharp enough to slice through the space between us. I tightened my grip on the ticket until it crumpled. You only claimed me for your family. The words came out hotter than I meant, smoke from something burning too long inside me. For a moment his expression didn't change. Then something flickered, quick, like pain trying to hide. I claimed you because, he stopped, jaw tightening as if the rest of the sentence was too heavy to speak here. I didn't wait for him to finish. I took another step back, meaning to put space between us. But the crowd shifted suddenly. A ripple of noise moved through the platform, and then I saw them. Reporters, cameras already raised, flashes stinging the cold air. They must have followed him, or maybe they were here for something else, and we were just too easy. They swarmed fast, voices calling my name, his questions thrown like stones. I tried to step around them, but someone's bag clipped my arm, spinning me slightly toward the edge. My foot slipped on the yellow line. The train wasn't here yet, but the drop was enough to make my stomach turn. Then his arms were around me. It wasn't gentle. It was a force pulling, claiming, locking me against him before I could fall. My back hit his chest, his coat wrapping around both of us. And his scent? It hit me like it always did. Cedar, smoke, the faint salt of cold air, sinking past the surface, down into the place where the bond lived. My body reacted before my mind could fight it, the muscles in my shoulders loosening despite everything. His mouth was near my ear, voice low but not for me alone. Stay close. The reporters didn't stop, their cameras flashing brighter, voices rising. I could feel his grip tighten each time someone pushed too close. He maneuvered us toward the wall, away from the platform's edge, his body a barrier between me and everyone else. I hated how safe it felt. When we reached the quieter end of the platform, his hands didn't drop. One stayed on my wrist, the other on my hip, like letting go would mean losing me again. You shouldn't be here, I said, my voice quieter now, but no less raw. I had to be. For what? To drag me back into your cage? His eyes searched mine, and for once there was no mask, just the kind of exhaustion that seeps deeper than bone. To keep you alive. I didn't know how to answer that. My chest felt tight, and not just from the bond. The next train pulled in, the wind from it pushing cold air around us. People hurried to board, but we stayed where we were, locked in the small tense space between us. Let me go, I said finally, though my voice lacked the edge I wanted. His grip loosened by a fraction, but he didn't step back. If I do, someone else will catch you, and they won't hold you like this. The words landed heavy, leaving silence in their wake. When the crowd thinned and the train doors slid shut, he let his hand fall, but only enough for me to know he was allowing it, not because I'd won. Come back, he said, softer now. I shook my head. I can't. He looked like he wanted to argue, but instead, he reached up and tugged my scarf lower, just enough to see the mark on my gland. His thumb brushed over it lightly, a touch too soft to be an accident. You're shaking, he murmured. I didn't tell him it wasn't from the cold. The next announcement echoed through the station. My train would be here soon. I stepped back, but the scent he left on me stayed, deep enough that I knew it wouldn't fade by the time I reached wherever I was going. And I hated that part of me didn't want it to. The noise outside was fading, but it wasn't gone. Reporters still lingered at the far end of the street, their voices low, cameras occasionally flashing in the distance like faint lightning. We stood just inside the doorway of his apartment, the cold seeping in from behind us. My bag had slipped from my shoulder, resting forgotten at my feet. I didn't move to pick it up. My chest was still tight from the confrontation at the station, from the way his scent had wrapped around me like it owned me. He was looking at me, but not like before, not with the practiced, unreadable expression he wore for the public. His eyes were bare now, gold muted, as if they were holding something too heavy to carry any longer. "I need you to listen," he said quietly, his voice stripped of all its sharp edges. I didn't answer. My fingers curled into my coat sleeves. He took one step closer, then another, until I could feel the faint warmth of his breath. "The council came to me months ago," he began. "They told me if you weren't bonded soon, they would strip your Omega status." My head jerked slightly. "What?" "They'd put you in a maid auction," he continued, each word like a stone dropped into still water. "Sell you to the highest bidder. No choice, no bond you could trust, no one who would care if you broke under it." My throat felt dry, but I forced the words out. "So you decided for me?" "I decided to protect you." His voice didn't rise, but the conviction in it pressed against me like a weight. "I staged the rut. I marked you in public. I made sure every predator in the city knew you were already taken, and I made it loud enough for the council to hear." I shook my head, the anger in me tangled with something I didn't want to name. "You could have told me." "I was afraid," he said, the honesty in his tone cutting deeper than any defense. "Afraid you'd see it as a cage instead of a shield. Afraid you'd run before you understood." My heart was pounding now, not from fear but from the way his scent was changing, softer at the edges, warmer like smoke fading into the low burn of embers. "I never regretted you," he said, and the rawness in his voice made my breath stutter. "I regretted making you think I did." Something inside me faltered at that. His hand rose slowly, giving me every chance to move away. I didn't. His thumb brushed over the scar on my gland, the one that had burned the first night, the one I had tried to hide under collars and scarves. His touch was feather light, but it sent heat curling low in my chest. Then he leaned in. The kiss to my gland wasn't rushed. It was slow, deliberate, a claiming that wasn't about force this time. The warmth of his mouth seeped into my skin, the faint drag of his breath marking the moment in a way that no one watching could mistake. Because there were still cameras outside, I could see the faint movement of them through the gap in the curtains. I could hear the low murmur of voices beyond the glass. And I didn't care. My breath hitched, not from the attention but from the truth I felt in that kiss. It wasn't staged, it wasn't for them, it was for me. When he pulled back, his forehead rested lightly against mine. "If you still want to go, I won't stop you, but I had to tell you first." The bond between us pulsed then, steady, strong, like it was answering him for me. I could have stepped away, I could have picked up my bag and walked out into the cold, into the waiting cameras, into a freedom that felt less and less like freedom with each breath I took of his scent. Instead, I leaned forward, just enough for my head to rest against his shoulder, for my body to find the place it had been pulling towards since the beginning. His arms came around me instantly, not crushing this time, but holding, his scent wrapped around me again, not as a cage, but as something warmer, something that felt like home. The outside world could see us, the council could watch, the cameras could flash until their batteries died. For the first time, none of it mattered. I let the bond pull me the rest of the way in.